Shivananda Sharma Memorial RV College video lecture. This is an ISR initiative. SSMRV College, one of the premier institutes run by the prestigious RV group of institutions, has come up with a unique initiative to engage students at the time of this unforeseen medical emergency caused by corona outbreak. As a socially responsible institution, we would like to connect academically with students to make good the losses caused. In this connection, Shobha.B.G of Dept. of Commerce has posted a video on the subjects cost management and performance management, and the topic covered is activity-based costing. This is a common topic in accounting and finance electives. Please watch the video till the end and like, share with your peer groups and subscribe to your YouTube channel. Thank you. Topics covered in this video are: first one, traditional costing, means what is the traditional method of finding the cost. Next one is what is the need for the new approach, that is what is the necessity of applying the activity based costing. Third one, important terms used in the activity based costing. Next, definition of activity based costing. The next one is how do you identify cost pools and cost drivers, which are very essential to find out the cost as per the ABC. Next one, steps involved in the activity based costing. Last one is problem on activity based costing. Before going to traditional costing, let us understand what is a costing. As we all know that costing is a method or it is a procedure adopted to ascertain the cost of goods or services. So when we are going to ascertain the cost of good or services, we are going to consider the direct expenses and the indirect expenses. With regarding to the direct expenditure, there is no problem because these direct expenses are easily traceable and there is no confusion with regarding to the allocation of these expenses. But the indirect expenses, which we call it as a general expenses and the common expenses, which belongs to many products or many departments or many cost centers. So with this regard, the traditional costing and activity based costing are going to differ only with regarding to allocation or how do they consider the indirect expenses in cost ascertainment. So let us understand what is the traditional costing now. So traditional costing is a system which applies indirect cost to the product based on a predetermined overhead rate. It means in case of traditional costing, the indirect expenses are going to be allocated on the basis of predetermined overhead rate. It means the common expenses, the indirect expenses are going to be allocated on the basis of the overhead rate, which usually either the direct labor hours or direct machine hours. As you can see in the chart, so overhead cost are going to be allocated on the basis of the direct labor expenses or the direct labor hours or the machine hours. So that is how we consider the cost ascertainment in traditional. In the previous slide, we discussed about the traditional costing. According to this costing, most of the general expenses or the indirect expenses has to be allocated on the suitable basis or on the direct labor hour. But this method of costing may not be appropriate at present because it may not give the 100% accurate cost. So there is a necessity of the new approach. Let us discuss what are those needs or the necessities which makes us to adopt the new approach. First one is tremendous changes in the manufacturing and service industries. Second point, decrease in the amount of direct labor or usage. Then significant increase in the total overhead cost. Last one, traditional cost accounting uses a single overhead pool and is not able to calculate the true cost. The cost of goods and services are allocated randomly based upon the labor hour or the machine hours. Before going to the definition, let us understand some of the important terms which are used under the ABC. First term is activity. Activity means any event, action, transaction or work sequence that incurs cost when producing a product or providing a service. It means when we are producing a product or rendering a service, we are going to involve with different kind of action or different kind of event. So each event or action is called an activity. For example, if it is an educational institution, in the educational institution we are providing a service or giving education. So under this educational institution there are different kind of activities happening. For example, there is a security service used, that is an activity. There is a library facility provided to student, that is also an activity. And there is an admin department which is working for the students or for the institution, that is also an activity. Then lecturing or taking class is also an activity. So any kind of event or the action which is happening, we call it as an activity. Then next term used is activity cost pool. It means the overhead cost attributed to a distinct type of activity. For example, ordering materials or setting up of machine. So activity cost pool, this is a term which is used under the ABC. So when we allocate the overhead or the general expenses to a particular activity, we call it as a cost pool. Here some of the examples are given for the producing a product, that is ordering a material or setting up of machines. To give some other example, supervising is an activity, purchasing of raw material is an activity, quality control is an activity. So these activities we call it as a cost pool under the ABC. The next one is the cost drivers. Cost drivers means any factor or activity that have a direct cause effect relationship with the resources consumed. It means when the activities are happening, depending on the number of times that particular event happens, the cost is going to be decided. For example, if it is a sports department, or sports is an activity, so how many events are happening in the sports department is going to decide what is the cost of the sports activity, because depending on number of the sports events happening, they have to buy the equipments or the material or the things which are required to conduct the sports. Then if it is a purchase of the raw material, so how many times the material is going to be bought or how many types of materials are bought is going to decide what is the cost of the purchase department. So the number of times that particular event happens is called as a cost drivers. Definition of ABC. CIMA defines ABC costing as cost attribution to cost units on the basis of benefit received from indirect activities, that is ordering, setting up, assuring quality. So according to this definition, the cost should be attributed or should be allocated to the cost unit only on the basis of the benefit that we receive from that activity. In case if there is no benefit received from the activity, then the cost should not be allocated. To state the same example, if there is a library present in the educational institution, if the library department has not bought any books nor issued the book, or if the students are not using the library facility, then the cost should not be allocated to the library. So there is a proper coordination between the cost allocation and the benefit received from that activity. In the previous slide, we have discussed about the ABC costing, that the indirect expenses or overheads are allocated on the basis of the cost pools and cost drivers. Again, to tell you, cost pools means the activities, the different activities undertaken to produce a product or to give a service. Cost drivers means how many times each activity has been performed. So this chart is going to display some of the examples for the cost pools and cost drivers. So in the chart you can see on the left side that the activity cost pools, then cost drivers and the products. So under the activity cost pools there are 4 activities listed, and under the cost driver, what is the activity or how many times that activity has been performed. And in the products you can find there are 2 kinds of raw materials or 2 kinds of products. So let us take the first cost pools, which is a purchasing. So purchasing means it is a purchasing of a raw material. So purchasing is a cost pool or is an activity. So the cost of purchasing department or the purchasing is decided by the number of purchase orders, that is called as a cost drivers. So the arrow mark, two arrow marks says that there are two kinds of raw materials. So the order may be placed twice, that is for axles 1 and for steering wheels 1. So purchasing is an activity, and this activity is going to be calculated on the basis of the number of purchase orders. Then second one is the storing department or the storage. So the cost of storage depends on the amount of square footage or the amount of space used to store the raw materials. Again, there are two raw materials, so storage may be happening separately for both of the products. Then coming to third one is the machining. Machining is a activity. Under the machining, the cost of the machining is going to be allocated on the basis of number of machine hours spent on both of the products. Then last one is a supervising. So supervising is an activity, it is a cost pool. So the cost of supervising is going to be allocated on the basis of the number of employees involved in producing both the product. It means the cost of supervisor are going to be allocated for both the product depending on the number of employees involved in the production and how much the supervisor is going to spend his time or her time on supervising the employees. Here is another chart displaying the different kind of activity cost pools and cost drivers. So let us start with the first activity cost pool, that is ordering and receiving a raw material. So which is a cost pool, and the cost of this ordering and receiving a material is decided by number of purchase order, which is a cost driver. Then coming to the second one, setting up of machine. Setting up of machine means when we are going to deal with a different kind of products, the machine which we have installed, we need to change the setups. So whenever we change the setup, we have to incur the expenses. So the setting up cost of the machine is going to be allocated on the basis of number of setups, means how many times we have changed the setup of the machines. Coming to third one, machining cost. So cost of machining is going to be decided or allocated on the basis of the machine hours spent on each of the product. Fourth one is assembling cost. When we are going to assemble the different component of a product, so the cost of assembling is going to be decided on the basis of number of parts used for assembling purposes. The next one is inspecting and testing cost. So the cost of inspecting or testing or the quality control depends on the number of tests happened on each of the product. Next one is a painting cost. So the cost of painting should be divided on the basis of a number of parts that we are spent for painting. Last one is a supervising cost. So the cost of supervising depends on the direct labor hours or the number of hours that the supervisor has spent to inspect or to supervise the work of each of the labor. Activity-based costing involves the following 4 steps. The first step is identifying and classifying the major activities and allocate the manufacturing overhead cost to the appropriate cost pools. It means when we are going to allocate the overhead, first of all we need to identify which are the major activities. For example, purchasing or the storing or the machining or the supervising, these are all come under the category of cost pools or the activities. Then second step will be identifying the cost drivers that has a strong correlation to the cost in the cost pools. So each of the cost pools or the activities, we have to find out what are the cost drivers. It means how many times each of the activity has been performed, as we know that the number of activity for each of the activity is going to decide what should be the cost of that particular department or the activity. Coming to third one, compute the overhead rate for each pool. For each of the product, for each activity, we need to find out the cost depending on the cost drivers. The last one is assigning overhead cost for each cost to products using the overhead rates. The last step is when we calculate the rate for each of the cost driver, we can find out what is the overhead for that activity, and in total we can find out the total overhead for all the activities involved in the production. Let us discuss one problem along with the answer to understand how the rate of the cost driver is calculated and how the total overhead is going to be calculated. So you can find a problem there in the slide. So let me explain about the problem. So here they are given an example about the two products which are produced by a company. The two products are scissors jacks and hydraulic jacks. So the scissor jacks are going to be produced 2 lakh units, and the hydraulic jacks are of 80,000 units. And below the table gives the details about each of the activity cost and what is the cost drivers, then what is the estimated total overhead, then what is the expected use of the drivers per activity, then what is the cost driver for scissors jack, that is for the first product, and what are the cost drivers for the second product, that is the hydraulic jacks. So the first column is explaining about the different kind of activities which are given for producing both the product. So you can find ordering activity, machining setup, machining, assembling, inspecting and testing, painting and supervising. The next one is cost drivers. So under this cost driver you can find out how the cost activities or how the activities are going to be called. That is, for ordering and receiving of a material, we are going to identify the cost based on purchase orders. Then machine setup will calculate based on the number of setups. Then machining is going to be considered on the basis of machine hours spent for each of the product. Then assembling depending on the number of parts used to assemble. Then inspecting and testing depends on the test happened for each of the product. Painting depends on number of parts which we are going to paint it. Then supervising cost should be allocated on the basis of direct labor hours. Third column is about the estimated overhead. These are not the product wise. This is the total estimated overhead that they are going to spend for both the products. Then fourth column is what is the estimated cost drivers, right? When they produce a products, they know that is how many times the each activity has to happen. So the fourth column gives the details only the estimated number of cost driver for each of the activity. Then last two columns gives a detail about the actual cost drivers which are taken place for both the product, that is a scissors jack and hydraulic jack, right? So to conclude, you can find in the table activity cost pools, then the drivers, then the estimated overhead, then what is the estimated cost drivers, then what is the actual cost drivers for both of the products. So in this slide we will be calculating what is the total overhead spent for the scissors jacks according to activity based costing. So in the slide you can find two tables. So first table is about the problem, the same what we have discussed in the previous slide. Just to reference purpose, I kept it the same problem so that we can refer it while discussing the answer. So we'll start with the second table. So in second table you can find that there are 6 columns. First column is about the cost pools. Second column is estimated overhead. Third is number of cost drivers. Fourth one is rate per drive. Then fifth column is cost drivers of scissors jacks. Then last column is the total overhead. So let us start with the first column, that is a cost pools. So cost pools means the activities. So already in the problem they are given you what are the activities happened for both the product. So we have to copy all the activity cost pools while calculating the answer. The next one is the estimated overhead. So this estimated overhead is general given for both the products. So that is also given in the problem. You can find that is third column in the problem, that is in the first table. So we need to copy all the estimated overhead which is given in the problem. Now coming to the third column, number of cost drivers. So number of cost drivers means that is also given in the problem, that is also the estimated number of cost drivers. The same thing we are going to copy, that is 2500 orders, 1200 setup, then 8 lakh hours, then 30 lakh parts, 35,000 tests, 30 lakh parts and 2 lakh hours. So the first three columns we are copying from the problem, which is a cost pools, then estimated overhead, number of cost drivers. Now coming to the fourth column, where we need to calculate what is a rate per cost drive. What is a rate per cost drive? So this rate per drive will be calculated by considering the second column and the third column. So second column there is a total overhead given, and third column there is a number of cost drivers given. So the estimated overhead divided by number of cost drivers will give the answer for rate per drive. I'll repeat. So second column total overhead divided by third column total number of drivers will give us an answer for the drive rate or the rate per drive. To elaborate, for example, first one is ordering and receiving, that is a 2 lakh, and the number of cost drivers are 2500. So how do we calculate rate per drive? That is 2 lakh divided by 2500 is 80. So 80 rupee is per order rate. Then next one is 6 lakh is a total overhead and 1200 is a setup. So 6 lakh divided by 1200 will give us an answer of 500. So 500 is a per setup cost. Then in the same manner we have to calculate for remaining cost pools, that is a machining, assembling, inspecting and painting, supervising. So after calculating the fourth column, that is a rate per drive, fifth column is cost drivers of scissors jack. Since we are calculating the overhead for the scissors jack, this is one product, so we need to copy the drivers which is given in the problem. So in the same slide in the top table you can find there is a last column, expected use of cost drivers per product. You can find the cost drivers of scissor jacks. So same cost driver, number of cost driver, only for the scissor jacks we are going to copy in the fifth column, right? Why we are considering scissor jack? Because we are going to calculate the total overhead only for this product, so we are taking the cost driver of scissors jack. So after copying the number of drivers of the scissor jack, the last column calculating the total overhead for this product. So how do we calculate the total overhead for this product? Very simple. Take the fourth column, that is a rate per drive, and multiply with the cost driver of this product. That is, for example, first one is ordering and receiving, and rate per drive is 80 rupees per order, and the cost driver for the scissors jack is 1000. So 80 into 1000 is 80,000. Next one is machine setup, and rate per drive is 500 per setup, and number of drivers used for this product are 500. So 500 into 500 is 2,50,000. Same way we need to calculate for other activities, that is assembling, inspecting, painting and supervising, right? So we have calculated the total overhead for each of the cost pools. Then last step will be finding the total overhead or finding the total indirect expenses. When you add up the last column, all the values, the total is called as a total indirect expenses or total overhead, which is 35,20,000. Let us discuss how to calculate the total overhead for the second product, that is hydraulic jacks. So the calculation of total overhead is similar to that we have did it in the previous slide, that is for the first product. So in this slide you can find the two tables. The first table is again the problem or the values which are given in the problem. Just to refer it while calculating the answers, I kept the problem once again. So let us start with the second table, that is a total overheads for hydraulic jacks. So as usual we need to have 6 columns. The first column is the cost pools. So cost pools are common for both the product. So let us copy all the cost pools given in the problem. Coming to the second column, that is estimated overhead, that is also given in the problem. So we have to copy the estimated overhead in the second column. Third one is number of cost drivers. So that is also given in the problem, common for both the product. So let us copy all the number of cost drivers given in the problem. Coming to the fourth column, calculation of a rate per drive. So how do we calculate rate per drive? Very simple. Take the second column values and divide it by the third column, then we will get the rate per drive. We have to do it for each of the activities because the estimated overheads are different and the cost drivers numbers also different. So first one is ordering and receiving. The total overhead is 2 lakh and number of drivers are 2,500. So 2 lakh divided by 2,500, 80 is per order rate. The next one is machine setup. 6 lakh is the overhead. So divide it by 1,200 setups. So we will get 500 as an answer, that is the rate per setup. The next one is machining is 20 lakh rupees and 8 lakh hours are spent and rate per hour is 2.5. In the similar manner, we need to calculate for assembling, inspecting, painting and supervising. So in the fourth column, we have come to know what is the rate per drive. Now, fifth column, we have to copy the drivers given in the problem for the hydraulic jacks. So in the above table, in the last column, you can find out the expected use of cost drivers per product. So we need to copy for the hydraulic jacks because we are trying to find out the total overhead for the hydraulic jacks. So in the fifth column, we have to copy the number of drivers given in the problem. Then come to the last column, that is a total overhead calculation. So how do we calculate the total overhead? Again, take the rate per drive, that is the fourth column, and multiply with the fifth column, that is the cost drivers of this product. Then the answer will be the total overhead for this activity. To repeat, 80 is the per order cost and 1,500 is the number of drivers. So total overhead is 1,200. Next one is a 500 per setup rate and 700 are the number of drivers. 3,50,000 is a total overhead for the machine setup. Next one is 2.5 is a rate per hour for machining and totally 5 lakh machine hours are spent. So 12,50,000 is a total machining cost. Next one is that is assembling. So rate is 0.60 per part and total parts included for this production of this product is 12 lakh parts. So that is 60 paise into 12 lakh, that is 7 lakh 20,000. So in the similar manner we have to do it for the inspecting, painting and supervising. After calculating the overhead for each of the cost pool or the activities, when we total at the end, that is 32 lakh 80,000 is a total overhead for the second product, that is a hydraulic jacks. So this is how we are going to calculate the total indirect expenses according to activity based costing. To summarize it once again, so how do we calculate the total overhead? We have to consider the total cost pools and take the total estimated overhead and what are the number of drivers which are given in the problem. Then we need to calculate what is the rate per drive and multiply with the total drivers of that respective product, then we will get a cost of each of the activity. When we total the cost of all the activities or all the cost pools, the total what we get is a total overhead or total indirect expenses. So finally, when we calculate the total cost of a product or the service, we need to consider what is the direct expense, then add this indirect expenses which is calculated by using the activity based costing, then we will get the cost which is a total cost. So in the total cost, if we add the profit, then the answer or the value what we get is a sales price or the selling price. I hope you all understood this content from this video. Thank you very much for watching the video.